Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another video. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Very special guest today. We have Shane Stein. He's a good friend of mine, but more importantly, he is the executive producer of the Game Chasers movie, the forthcoming Game Chasers movie, which I believe was supposed to be out by now. And the reason I'm having Shane on the show, other than the fact that he's just an awesome dude, is I want to find out what happened to the Game Chasers movie. Where is it? Why am I not watching it right now? So we'll find that out. But first, we're going to talk a little bit to Shane about who he is, how he got into video games and all that kind of stuff. So Shane, 3 or 4 years ago, you contacted me sort of out of the blue about my books and perhaps writing. You've written some stories for my SNES Omnibus books and for my forthcoming NES Omnibus book. And you live in Dallas, I live in Fort Worth, so we're about 30, 45 minutes away from each other. And you contacted me about contributing my books. How did that come about? How did you find out about me or my books or whatever?
Yeah, Brett, it was pretty out of the blue, really. I'm pretty sure I bought one of your books on Amazon. I mean, it certainly was obviously one of your books. Bought it on Amazon. It was one of your original books about video games, maybe 1984 to 1986, one of those.
Oh, it was probably 85 to 88, the one that covers the NES Master System and 7800. Yeah, that console release era of that time covers those three systems. So you bought that book.
Yeah, I think I just bought it on Amazon, and I really, I love the book.
Thank you.
Didn't know who you were, of course, but I decided.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm not a household name.
Not at all. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's fair enough. Anyway, so you had no clue who I was, of course. But
ladies and gentlemen, this man is a household name.
Maybe in his head, but that's about it.
No, but at the time, your books were new to me, but I really loved it. I thought it was just a wonderful book, and I wanted to see if you'd written anything more. I mean, I saw a couple other things on Amazon, but I looked you up. I probably put your name into Google or something like that, came upon your website, and I just, I liked your stuff. I think I ended up buying a couple more of your books, and then I think I just emailed you. I was just out of the blue. I said, hey, Brett, just want to introduce myself, just let you know I loved your book. And then I think from there, you and I connected, ended up just kind of chatting about video games and different things, connected on Facebook. And at some point, you mentioned that you were writing your books.
I put the call out on social media that I was looking for story writers for my omnibus books, for like nostalgic stories about growing up playing these games, just to add some color and interest to the, instead of just having entries about the games, it's like you jump and you hit people,
Yeah.
I thought it'd be more interesting to have nostalgic stories of like growing up playing these games. And you grew up around the NES. That was your early console, like so you're about a decade younger than me. So let's get to this. What is your first video game memory?
First video game memory, well, yes, the NES was the first console I ever owned. My first video game memory, probably earlier than that, because I remember playing, well, first I played the NES. I had friends who had the NES before I did. Definitely playing it there. My first total video game memory, I'll tell you what I can think of. So when I was a kid, my dad got into golf at one point, and he started playing a lot of golf, and he joined a club. And I remember going with him as a kid to this club. It was this place in Carrollton.
Joined a club, huh? Kind of upper class kind of guy.
Yeah, I guess trying to, I guess if you want to play golf, you can join a place.
Or you can just go to the cheap club, just the cheap neighborhood courses like my dad went to.
Yeah, I don't know. This place was a club, and it was in the middle of like the industrial zone in Carrollton, Texas.
So it wasn't real fancy.
I wouldn't call this the fanciest club in the world.
All right. So all right.
But here's the one thing. In fact, here's the proof they really weren't fancy. But in my case, they were, is that they had an old school arcade room right in there. Now, I guess this would have been the late 80s, so maybe it wasn't that old school at the time. But they had games like Donkey Kong, Miss Pac-Man, Jungle King, Kangaroo.
Excellent.
And they were all free.
Right. Oh, just all set. If you belong to the club, the games are all on free play.
All on free play.
Hey, that's worth joining the club right there.
So every time my dad played golf, I'd want him to drag me along just so I can go play in this arcade.
Man, when my dad would take me golfing, I just had to walk along and just look at the ducks or something in the water trash.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I had to do some of that too, but I played some of those games. So that was probably my first arcade memory.
Now, was that in the Dallas area?
In the Dallas area, yeah, in Carrollton, which I guess for Dallas people would know where that is. But
yeah, so you live and work in Dallas, and you've got a wife and kids and everything. but you grew up around games, and you still became a normal person. So see, it's possible.
Yeah, normal? I don't know. That's a big question in and of itself.
So you discovered arcade games before consoles.
I did
Because of the club.
Yeah, the first console that I had, and that club is not in existence anymore.
I'd totally go if it was. It'd be great if you went and it was still there with those games on free play. That'd be so awesome.
I think it went out of business at least 20 years ago.
Right.
But,
Well, back then you could find arcades anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I went to the Dallas Mavericks game, and around the concourse, they had, not for very long, maybe 1 or 2 seasons, they had arcade games around the concourse because it was just ubiquitous. Arcade games were everywhere, and they just had them. And I've heard there was a funeral parlor that had some.
Whoa.
I know, it's insane.
Yeah, it's.
So anyway, so you discovered these arcade games.
Yeah, so I loved Miss Pac-Man at the time. I mean, that was the one I had a blast playing that one because it was on the fast setting.
I was going to ask that. Is it
Yeah.
the slow version or the everybody seems to love the fast one.
the
Now,
fast
purists
one was
might
the
tell
best.
you the slow one is the one you're supposed to play, but the fast one's the most fun.
Yeah. Oh, I love the fast one. Love the fast one. And but I would say the first time I got into console games was definitely the Nintendo, in the sense that I had friends around my neighborhood that had the Nintendo at least for a good year before me. So I was always going to my buddy's house, different friends playing different Nintendo games before we owned one ourselves. And I feel like we were like the last people to do it, to have it.
Right.
It was just, my folks were just held out.
Yeah.
And we finally got one. I was about 9 years old. Finally got the Nintendo. And
It's a great age for it.
Oh yeah, and I dove right into it. And funny enough, as I discovered, I can't say I didn't really come from a family of gamers. I have 2 brothers, and yeah, they like games, but not like me.
Right.
I never recall my parents playing games ever, even once. But
At least not video games.
not video games, yeah, not video games, but we had an old Intellivision console in the closet that I guess my father had bought and maybe never really played. So I played that for a little bit, and that was a lot of fun.
You remember what games?
Astro Smash,
Oh, excellent.
Night Stalker.
Oh, great. Great stuff.
I love those Space Armada.
Nice. A Space Invaders clone that's a little clunky, a little bulky, but still kind of fun.
Yeah, which for me was fun because I played that before I ever played the real Space Invaders.
Nice.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Hey, this Space Invaders game is like Space Armada. They ripped it off.
Yeah, exactly. So we had that, but the moment we got the Nintendo, the Intellivision went in the trash. Went in the trash.
Yeah.
We had one TV in the family room, and my dad said to me and my brothers, you could decide between which one do you want, and that was an easy choice. So the Nintendo stayed.
Right.
And I remember this. Our first 3 games, we had Super Mario Brothers, Kid Icarus, and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Great start, man.
And I remember a little later we got Zelda as our 4th game. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out from then to today is still my favorite all-time video game.
I was going to ask you what your favorite is. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, which is funny because it's from my 100 Greatest book. Mike Tyson was an eligible title because it came out in '87, and it's not in there.
Yeah.
It's in the appendix at the back of the book. Do you forgive me for that? Because
I'll forgive you.
yeah, because I just never quite warmed up to that game. I acknowledge that it's a popular game. It's a very well-loved game, and it definitely has something about it that's appealing. But favorite game of all time is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yeah. What's an epic title, legendary, iconic title for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you why I love it so much. I mean, for one, even though this might be spoiling something I wrote in your book for it, because I wrote
that's
a little
okay.
story
Spoil
on
away.
it. Yeah, but I mean, it's a fun game. I mean, obviously, yes, it's a boxing game, but it's a lot of pattern recognition, so you don't have to be into boxing personally. Even though I actually did box when I was 12, 13.
Oh, now you're just bragging.
I'm not bragging. I didn't say I was a good boxer, but I did do it.
Right.
But Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, just loved it. I mean, I just got so into that game. I'd play it over and over again, and I did finally beat it when I was about 11. And okay, maybe this will sound like bragging, but some famous person said if you can do it, it ain't bragging.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Whoever said that, no, but really. There's a lot of Nintendo games I will fully admit I am terrible at and not good at, but Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, I just played to the point where, yeah, I could beat Tyson, and I will say to this day I can still do it.
Well, that's funny because I'm not a great gamer, but I'm kind of good. But if I spend enough time with the game, is really the only way I can master it.
Well,
You
that's
have to
like
spend
me.
a lot of time with it.
That's the whole
Especially
thing.
those old NES games. I spent a ton of time on Contra, and I actually ended up getting to where I could beat the whole game, and that was before I know about the Konami code. I didn't know you could get extra lives or any of that. So I was able to beat it just with the... So The point is, you just spend a ton of. If you spend enough time with these games, some of those NES games were so brutally difficult.
Oh, they were.
So you really had to spend a lot of time.
I'll tell you, Brett, I'm super impressed at that because I mean, look, I will stay right here for recorded. On this thing, there is no way I ever could beat Contra without that 30-man code.
Well,
Never.
I couldn't do it now. I've tried, but when I was in my 20s and the NES was new to me, I just played. I was dancing in between the bullets, because you flip and turn, and anyway, but those NES games, and I think they were designed that way. They wanted to get a lot of time. They wanted to make the game have value, so they would make them really hard, so you couldn't beat them real fast and throw them aside. So you would just repeat the levels again and again and again until you could work your way up.
Yeah, no, that's true. There were some really brutal ones, and I could go on. The list of games that I own that I have not beaten is quite a bit larger than the games that I own that I have beaten.
Sure.
So
join the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. So by no means am I claiming to be a Nintendo superstar by any means, but I agree with you. The games where I just played on and on, it's just a matter of I think it was just putting that effort in again. I mean, I just kept going at Tyson until I finally beat him, and that's the thing with a game like that. Once you figure out how to do it, you can keep doing it. Mm-hmm. It's pattern recognition and practice. So maybe, I don't know, kind of like learning the piano or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I compare some of those really iconic but also difficult games, sort of like a sport.
Yeah.
Or like an musical instrument. Like if you play Defender or Missile Command or Robotron and you're really, really good, if you watch somebody playing those, it's almost like watching like an entertainer or a artist at work. The way they, manipulate the buttons, or just the way just the finesse they put into the game, and all that kind of stuff. So, congrats on being such a great Mike Tyson player and on having stories in my books. Yeah,
thank you.
So, do you play modern games at all? Do you have any interest in, today the Xbox Series X came out. Does that move you at all? Do you care?
For me, a little bit. I play modern games a little bit, but primarily the Switch.
Oh, okay,
I would say that's my modern system. I don't have a PlayStation or an Xbox. I mean, it's not that I don't like them. It's really more for me now. It's a time issue.
Oh gosh, I understand. Yeah.
Just with work. I mean, as much as I love producing movies, I can't claim it's my full-time job. I'm actually a financial advisor in my regular career, and just being between work and married and having I got 3 kids. It's just unfortunately the time that it takes to master modern games, I think is,
oh gosh, just to even feel like you've even played them takes a couple of hours, because it takes so long to do anything, to follow the storyline or to look for the sword for the first half an hour. Old games you could jump right in and just start hammering away at whatever it was.
That's very true. Like I remember the first Zelda, you don't need to read the instructions, you need to do anything. You just go there, you get the sword, and you start playing. Whereas now, it probably takes you 30 minutes before you can even walk into the next room in a game. Which, look, I mean, for teenagers, for kids, and obviously many adults play them. I mean, I think it's wonderful that people do love these games, and they're more popular than ever as an industry.
Right.
I guess it's just in my personal case, it's more challenging, but so the Switch is the only modern system that I own, and I definitely enjoy it.
What games have you played on it, or what are 2 or 3 of your favorites on there?
I mean, definitely Mario Odyssey. And,
oh yeah, I beat that game. It's a lot much easier to beat than some of the older games, but it was fun.
Oh, that's great. I gotta say, I have not beaten it, but my 13-year-old daughter's beaten it.
Nice.
So she really enjoyed that one.
That's cool.
Breath of the Wild, which I have to admit I have not come close to beating.
I know somebody that put over 400 hours in that game, because there's just so much to do.
Wow. Yeah. It's,
I don't have that kind of time.
Not happening for me.
Right.
And actually some of the games I love on it are, I'm going to consider these some of the retro collections.
Yeah, right.
I really enjoy playing some of those.
It's funny when I play my 360 or my PS2 or PS1, a lot of times I'm just playing retro collections of games that came out in the 80s and 90s anyway, so it's kind of funny that way. I can relate. I
will say, though, some of the games that I remember, of course, used to considering new, I mean, I remember probably, 15 years ago, I never owned it, but I certainly had friends that had the Xbox, the first one, and so I used to go to my buddy's place and play Halo, all the time.
Yeah.
And to me then it's like, wow, I still almost consider that a modern gaming system, even though there's as much time as elapsed between that and today as between that and the original Nintendo.
Well, to me, it seems like everything from the Dreamcast forward seems modern.
Yeah,
Because
it's 3D.
Yeah, because the 3D and the graphic. I mean, Dreamcast games, Soul Calibur still looks great.
Yeah.
And, those OG Xbox games still look nice, And it just seems very modern compared to Atari and NES and stuff like that. So I kind of consider Dreamcast to the present modern. But most people, if they're playing the PS2, they call it retro,
Yeah.
so whatever.
But I'm with you on that
Yeah.
regard. I mean, definitely most of the games that I, enjoy are, the old school games. And so
Right.
I've got my Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis. I did end up getting another Intellivision.
Oh,
so
nice.
I have that.
Great.
I've got an IBM PC Junior, old computer. But
Are you going to get an Intellivision Amico?
yes, I am
Oh,
planning.
excellent.
I'm on the
Yes.
list. I'm
Oh,
signed
great.
up.
I'm glad.
getting
I
it.
didn't know. I was going to ask you that. I'm glad to hear that.
Yep, I'm excited about that one.
That is awesome. Tommy Tallarico will be very happy to know that the executive producer of the Game Chasers movie has an Amico in his future. That's awesome.
No, thanks. What I find cool is that he's cousins with Steven Tyler of Aerosmith.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I'm friends with Tommy. I need to figure out a way I can meet Steven Tyler. Tommy, if you watch this video, we need to figure this out. I need to meet Steven Tyler. All right. So speaking of the Game Chasers movie, so you're executive producing it. What made you want to fund this? How did you get involved? How did you meet these guys?
Sure. I mean, for one, in terms of, funding it, I mean, there's obviously many more people. I'm far from
Yeah.
alone in terms of participating, at that level.
Right.
Really, I met them in a similar way to you. I
Mm-hmm.
really just cold reached out to them. And I remember this. I was just scrolling through Facebook one day, and their ad for their Kickstarter campaign came up on my screen, probably because I, do a lot of video game related
And
stuff.
you'd watched their episodes before this?
Never.
Oh, really? So you discovered their movie Kickstarter before you discovered their show on YouTube?
Didn't know them, never
Okay.
heard of them, but I clicked on the Kickstarter and I looked at this and I said, this looks like the most incredible movie ever.
Right.
And then I ended up looking at some of the YouTube episodes, and I just emailed them. I looked up their email on the Kickstarter, and I think I emailed Billy. I really introduced myself when I said, hey, I wanted him to know, like, I introduced myself and I said, I'm wondering, it seems like you guys need, some assistance doing this, because they were trying to raise the campaign.
Right.
But also from a filmmaking perspective, many years ago, I mean, we're talking 17, 18 years ago, I had a film and video production business for a couple years, and unfortunately it didn't go anywhere, but I did have some experience on the filmmaking side.
Very cool.
On the production side and on the, artistic, on the direction side. Nothing major. I mean, I was 22, 23 years old at the time.
Right.
But I told them that. I wrote them, and I said who I was. I said, I'm not just some random guy. I mean, I'm writing this because, I do have some filmmaking experience.
And I've written stories in Brett Weiss's books.
I did mention
and-
that.
Did you?
Actually, I did, because I saw on Facebook that I had we were mutual
Okay.
friends. So I did say that I'd written some video game stories.
I was just kidding. you
But
probably
you're serious. I really did.
And they took you anyway.
I should thank you.
They,
And
they accepted your offer anyway.
Amazingly enough. No, but so I reached out to Billy, and he said, yeah, that sounds great. He's like, let's
Right.
talk. So we ended up meeting, and we just, clicked, just really great guy. And I think we met again, and he introduced me to Jay, and, just like I said, great guys. And one thing I will have to say that made it easier is the fact that they're local in the Dallas area
Yeah.
also.
Right.
Just as you and I were. I mean, I think had we been in different cities, obviously the fact that we could meet and become friends, obviously,
Yeah,
in
it really
person
helps
made it
out.
easier. And I think it was the same with them, just being local. I'm not sure I would have reached out to them if they were two guys in New York City or
Yeah, right.
somewhere.
Now, so tell me this: when you're meeting with Billy and Jay and everything, and you go to the set, are they pretty much the same as you see on the Game Chasers episodes, or is there anything different about them when they're off camera? Are they pretty much the same guys?
What am I allowed to say? Yeah, the reality is
Kind of
they
figured.
No, they are.
Their on-screen personas
They are.
pretty much what they are. And,
They are very much themselves.
yeah, and I've discovered that as well, just dealing with them, at convention. They host, if you guys don't, I'm sure everybody watching this channel knows that the Game Chasers have a very popular YouTube show, and they host the Retropalooza Gaming Convention, which you've never been to.
I have not.
It's just no excuse for that. But they host the Retropalooza Gaming Show in Arlington and Houston and everything. And I've discovered that as well. They're what you see. They're pretty funny guys, and pretty down to earth and everything.
Yeah, they're great guys. I mean, as I've gotten to know them better, I mean, just very down to earth, funny, just great dudes, fun to hang out with, but just I mean, good people.
So, what is the movie about? If you could just capsulize it, like maybe a Netflix description or an IMDb description, what is the Game Chasers movie about?
Sure. So, I think to explain it, maybe I should mention for anyone who doesn't know what the YouTube series is basically the two of them go out and find old rare video games, but they make it into a buddy comedy and lots of hijinks and going to different locations and funny interactions with people. And so they did several seasons of it, and what they decided to do was they decided to write a story that's a fictionalized version of themselves. So they are the two primary leads in the film, but they're playing a fictionalized version of themselves. It's sort of like how the Game Chasers got started, but
Did they call each other Billy and Jay in the movie?
Yeah, they're themselves.
Right.
I mean, and it's a continuation of the I guess it's really more of a prequel.
It's like the show, but kind of with a narrative, with
Yeah.
a fictional narrative.
But it's supposed to be more of a prequel, saying the fictional story of how did they meet each other, how did they come together, how did they become the Game Chasers.
And the NES plays a prominent role in it, right?
Yes, it does.
Right.
And and there is a trailer out. If anyone wants to go to YouTube, you can see there is a trailer out. So one thing I'll say, which does not spoil anything in the film, because this is really in the trailer, you can see they're going after their old NES that they had as a child, and that's sort of how the movie adventure becomes. So that's the premise of the film, and it's I know one thing you teased at the beginning of this show was, well, what's going on with it now? But that's the premise.
So the movie was supposed to be out by now, if life were normal.
Yeah.
Now, where is the movie?
Well, here's what.
How come it's not finished and either on DVD or in theaters?
So here's the big reveal about that. It's really unfortunately due to COVID.
Yeah.
And the reason for that
No
is,
big surprise there.
Yeah. So we principal photography was filmed last year. About a year. We're about a year. Just a year ago from now, November 2019.
Right.
And that went well, but like any film, you then have to edit it, and ultimately you have to do some pickup shots.
Now, would it have been delayed partly without, like, if COVID had never happened, was it probably going to be delayed somewhat?
No, the plan was to have it in opening night was supposed to be summer 2020, so COVID really has delayed it. See, here's what's happened, is when you film a movie. And then it's normal. Billy's actually the editor of it. But no, this was this was an entire crew came in from out of town locations. I mean, this is a completely professional production.
Yeah, they had people on the staff had worked on other like AAA Hollywood movies and stuff.
Oh yeah, there were some there were definitely some people with significant film backgrounds. No, this was completely 100%. I mean, this is a professional level.
Yeah.
This is not. I mean, certainly it's an indie, but
it's not just a long YouTube video.
Yeah.
It's definitely a film.
Yeah, this is not a. I think that's a good way to put it. This is not a YouTube video. This is a true feature film. But what happened is, Billy started editing it, and we realized that we needed to do some pickup shots. And because of COVID, it made it to where we weren't able to go back to the same location where it was. And what made that a challenge is that a lot of it was filmed outdoors. And if we went back 6 months later, when it's a different season and the leaves look different on the trees, you're going to have continuity problems. It won't match up.
Right.
So we've actually had to wait an entire year until now to do these pickup shots, and we're actually working on these pickup shots right now. Billy's actually actively working on that currently.
So
right now.
how often have you been on the set, or have you seen how much footage have you seen of the movie, that kind of stuff?
I've actually just seen a little bit of it recently. So I was on the set when it was filmed. In fact, I was.
Are you in the movie?
I am in the movie.
Okay, that was my next question.
I am in it. I don't have a.
You're hearing
speaking
that
role.
first here, probably.
Unless they leave my scenes on the cutting room floor, I am in the movie. But no, I do not have a speaking role, but I am in the movie. I actually could have been in it even more, but on a couple of the days where I could have come back and done some more, I actually had to take a business trip out of town, and unfortunately I couldn't.
You should have
be
told
in
them,
there.
sorry, man, my acting career takes.
Yeah, I said call the client. Sorry, I'm acting in my movie. But
Right.
well, what's interesting about that actually, that was the last out-of-town trip I took before COVID. I had to get it. I have some business in New York City. I actually went to New York for a few days, and obviously
right before COVID.
It was a few months, but that was the last time I was on a commercial flight.
Well, let me ask you a hypothetical. Let's say just for somehow the movie had been completely finished, and then theaters had shut down right at that time. Do you think they would have gone ahead and put it on DVD and Blu-ray and distributed it, or do you think they would have waited and debuted it in theaters?
You know, I really hadn't thought about that.
Something to ask Billy or Jay, probably.
But I will say this though, I think the answer probably is what you just said, because the whole goal for this movie is, I mean, as wonderful as a theatrical run would be, and we do plan on, aiming for a small theatrical run. Yeah. The main way, for a film today, independent films to be seen, in a commercial perspective, is to go the digital route. Right?
Yeah, right.
It's the YouTube.
So they probably would have just released it.
Yeah, I believe
that would make the most sense.
I mean, I haven't,
especially today. It makes perfect sense.
I mean, we haven't had a conversation like that just because the time it it
just
is what
speculating
it is today.
on it.
But speculating. What doesn't change is, while yes, we do intend on having theatrical screenings when able to, the primary distribution channels that we want to aim for are the digital, again, the Amazon, the Netflix, the YouTube. So that's the plan, which I think is great, because certainly, today totheatrical screenings, even if you're the biggest movie in the world, unless you're the Avengers or something, the typical drama comedy, today, just in the film world in general, ends up actually going through that distribution route.
Yeah,
so that's the plan.
That's the modern era. That's what reaches people is through those streaming services. So, do you think the movie will be out next year?
I hope so. Barring anything unexpected, we're looking at probably spring to summer of 2021.
Now, as far as the cast goes, I know Billy and Jay, and there's 8-Bit Eric in there with some humor. Are there any other familiar names that YouTube fans and some of our viewers would know? And OK Chief, is he in it?
A few others. I gotta say, as someone who never really watched the YouTube show before, I have to actually think about this. Dodongo.
Oh yeah, right.
Dodongo's definitely there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there'll be. It's definitely some overlap with the YouTube series, certainly. Right. But there's a lot of new characters, new actors in there.
They could have put me in there, but
sequel, right?
Yeah. I'm sure. I'll keep, kind of don't see that happening, but I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's hopefully, look, if this thing becomes enough of a success.
Well, hey, you are the executive producer. You can put in a good word for me.
I'll think of it.
You don't know about my acting chops, though.
All right.
I act like a normal person, sort of, so maybe that's something.
Well, hey, we're this is the audition right here, right?
Hey, I just realized you're auditioning me. I thought I was interviewing you. Oh my gosh, this just what a flip. This is like the Sixth Sense. Everything's just been flipped. So you guys are gonna have to, when you watch this video, you're gonna have to go back and watch it again from a new perspective.
I didn't say that.
All right, so I'm having way too much fun here, but we should probably wrap it up, before we lose too many viewers. But so we're looking at the Game Chasers movie next year. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. So real quick, what do you think of Billy and Jay's acting chops?
Billy and Jay's acting chops. Well, when you're just being yourself, it's almost like it's not acting.
Right, it just kind of comes through naturally.
I will say this, though. They're actually, and I think, even though, yes, on the YouTube series, they're essentially, it's live camera, and this was a change for them, having to play fictional characters, but they still really effectively played themselves. And I think they're great. I really do. I think as leading characters, I mean, you really see, you can tell that the two of them are friends in reality, as opposed to just two actors coming onto a set.
Even in their goofy YouTube videos, they have a rapport.
They do. And a lot of the scenes in the movie, I shouldn't say a lot. I mean, they certainly were working off a script, but definitely
improvisation.
Improvisation is good, and they had the kind of personal friendship where they can do that really well and naturally. So,
do you think any of the other actors improvised a little?
I think all actors improvise to some degree, certainly.
And if it's better than what's on the script, leave it in.
Yeah, and I think that happens, and and look, sometimes you have to do retakes. I mean, even the scenes that I was in, for example, and this is normal. Sometimes you'll shoot it several times because you want to get multiple camera angles. And you might want to get it, and then when you edit it, you weave it to where it looks like a very natural, progression. but sometimes that's made up of multiple takes of the same scene,
Yeah.
and that's normal. That's just how filmmaking
And y'all
is
filmed
done.
all over Dallas and Fort Worth. Is that, or did you film anywhere else besides the DFW area?
Well, it was all DFW area, but it was actually really more in the area south of Dallas, like in the Cedar Hill area and surrounding. It was all south. We actually had plans. In fact, we scouted out some sets in the North Dallas area, which was actually something I was very involved in doing, just living in North Dallas, whereas they're in Arlington and Fort Worth. Right. But unfortunately, we weren't able to use those locations in the film. Just logistically, it was just too difficult to move the whole thing for half a day, halfway across town. But I don't think that detracts from the film. I mean, those are things that would have been great to be there, but I think the movie's gonna be fantastic without it. It's obviously something that we were able to just I say we, I mean really Billy and Jay, they were able to just write the scenes around what was available.
And they play it straight. I mean, there's obviously going to be humor, and there might even be some jackassery. I don't know, but overall, they play it pretty straight. It's a legit narrative that they follow through the film, and it's not like the angry video game nerd movie where it's just kind of a farce. It's kind of more of a straightforward film.
No, it is. It's a narrative movie, but it's definitely a comedy.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I think it's got a great story.
So you've enjoyed the whole process of doing this, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. I've loved it. It was a lot of fun to get back into the film set, film world. A lot of fun. I've certainly, just made new friends from it. Really enjoyed the process. Still enjoying the process, and it's not quite over because once the film comes out, that's really just the beginning in many ways. From then the point on is just to get it really out there from a marketing and distribution standpoint, and actually. That's really where I'm probably going to step in even a little more because, from a pure, one thing I do have to say that with Billy and Jay, when I first met them, one thing where we really clicked upon was they already had the vision of the movie artistically. They didn't need me or anybody else for that. Yeah. And I was on the same page as them. My whole approach was, hey guys, I love what you've got already. You don't, my whole goal on the producer level that I'm coming in is to say, I want to help them make the best version of the film themselves to whatever they can do. I almost liken it a little bit almost to the way, maybe it's not an exact comparison, but the way, let's say you have a record producer, which, this is not exactly apples to apples, and you have a band come in and the band already has their album down. And I think, if somebody can recognize that and they say, hey, you guys just be the best version of yourselves and do it, that was really my approach from, an executive producer level.
That's what artists want to hear. They want to be facilitated, they want to be helped, they want maybe something to pitch ideas off of or a sounding board, but they want to be able to do their art without too much interference.
And that was really how I did it. So there was actually other people. There was another producer, for example, who was the day-to-day producer every day on the set. And then another line producer who was, working with that person to really help. So my level was much more broad, bigger picture, saying, I'm not going to get too involved really at all in the creative process of it. It's more, how do I come in just sort of more from the guidance, business perspective, help it out in terms of, the bigger picture. And so I'm actually going to most likely get a little more involved once the film is complete because, once it's completely, in the can, then it's a matter of getting involved again in the theatrical screening, the marketing, the distribution, and that's really where I'm hoping to be able to to add more to it. But again, it's a team effort very much, and certainly, I mean, Billy and Jay are the two main guys here. This could not have been done whatsoever with them, and and certainly my role compared to theirs, is still relatively minor, versus what they are. I mean, they're the two guys who are the stars who are making this movie, and it couldn't have come together without everybody's help, certainly, but it's definitely, it's...
Well, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Oh,
I mean, I think it's just, you go there with the right attitude and just set phasers on fun, get your popcorn. I think it's going to be a fun movie to watch. Now, you kind of joked a little bit about a sequel. Have they talked about, like, if it goes well and they're able to get their money back and make some money and everything, do you see them doing this sometime down the road, like a Sega Genesis version or something?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not that, but some other. Well, they're creative guys. I mean, they're both writers. They both. I mean, Billy edits and films. For his professional. His day job, he films. All kinds of stuff. So I would imagine seeing a Game Chasers 2 or something like that down the road. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because the Game Chasers movie, hopefully will be out in 2021, and hopefully things will be relatively normal, maybe in the middle of 2021 or something like that. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could go in the summer of 2021, go back to the theaters, and things be relatively normal, and go see the Game Chasers movie? That's the goal.
Absolutely.
All right, Shane. Well, I really appreciate you being here on the show. It's been a lot of fun talking to you. It's been fun catching up. And have anything to promote other than Game Chasers movie?
Well, since you mentioned it, yeah, actually,
Okay.
I do want to say one thing without going too long. So, in addition to being involved with this film, I'm actually involved in producing a forthcoming record album also by a local Dallas singer named Barton Stanley David. He's also a good friend of mine. In fact, I grew up, he was my across-the-street neighbor growing up, and I cemented my friendship with him when I traded him my Garbage Pail Kids collection for his baseball cards. But that
was a long time ago.
Long time ago. But we've stayed in touch, and now he is a musician. I mean, he's a professional singer-songwriter. He lived in New York for a long time. He's toured around. He had a song that was relatively popular, got some radio play, airplay, and it's on Spotify. It was a cover of the Car song Drive, but he does it acoustically, very different from the original version. I'd recommend anybody check it out. I think it's fantastic.
I'm assuming it's probably on YouTube.
It is.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, great song. And he has a lot of other tracks than that. That he's recorded some albums and some EPs and some singles, but he decided to record a new album. And in fact, he and I just about a year ago, he and I just kind of ran into each other at a mutual friend's party. Yeah, think about it. We're actually running into someone at a party.
I know.
These
what does that
days,
mean?
but,
Yeah, I've forgotten what that's like.
Yeah, and we just started talking, and he was telling me he wanted to make an album, and we'd actually just wrapped up Game Chaser filming, and I'm like, hey, count me in, let's do it.
Awesome.
So moved on to that. So we have we launched our own record label called Kenshire Records. www.kenshirerecords.com. There's actually nothing on it there, but we'll have content up very soon. He has a website. Just go Google him, Barton Stanley David.
I'll put a link in the description too.
Oh, thanks. So we're working on an album of his. It's called Crest. Is going to be the name of the album.
It's about toothpaste.
It is. No, it's that was my first thought too. But it is called Crest, like the crest of a wave.
Yeah, or the Crest of the Knave, the Jethro Tull album.
Yeah, that too. Even
There you
though it's probably not. We don't. I gotta say, we don't sound too much like Jethro
What
Tull.
genre are we talking here?
I would say the stuff that might go, the type of music. It's certainly rock. I would say more
Yacht rock.
Yeah, I'd say adult alternatives,
Right,
maybe
yeah.
where it fits,
Okay.
like stuff that would go on the spectrum.
That's cool.
And we've got a single that we just actually mixed it yesterday, and it should be coming soon. It's called "If I Didn't Tell You First." That'll be the first single from the project, but we are recording a full-length album. In fact, we've had so much fun doing it that we decided to do a duo project as well called the Lullaby Brothers, which I'm also contributing to. I also used to play a lot of music back when I was a teenager and early 20s, and got away from it for a very long time. But we're doing a couple different projects. So the first single, "If I Didn't Tell You First," by Barton Stanley David, should be out soon. Again, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, anywhere, and maybe we might do some vinyl pressings.
Excellent. Long live vinyl.
Amen. So,
All right. Well, thanks, Shane. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for chatting. I've really enjoyed it, and I've learned some stuff about the Game Chasers movie that I didn't know previously. Even though I've actually interviewed Billy and Jay and everything. But anyway, it's nice to talk to you. And man, we'll have to hang out again sometime. Maybe go to a socially distanced restaurant or something.
Sounds good.
Hang out, and I'll be glad when we can stop using all these words like masks and socially distanced and all this stuff. But we'll see. Summer 2021. That's what we're shooting for.
Yep. Well, thanks so much, Brett. I appreciate it. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you
thanks
so
for
much for
watching.
watching. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button. It really helps us out a lot. And I guess we'll talk to you later. If you want to leave a comment, that'd be awesome. Have you seen the Game Chasers movie trailer? What did you think about it? And are you looking forward to the film? Talk to you later.